Yo, what is up, Power Up fam? Welcome to the YouTube channel. This is a Power Up Talks live discussion. And y'all probably wondering who I have with me as the first guest, none other than a legend. This man has been around the community for some time, man. And some of you guys may know him, some of you may not. This is actually my first real live discussion with this brother. And I'm super, super excited about the content we're going to be able to unpack tonight on this discussion. Post GenCon. And so without further ado, I'm going to just open it up, man, to one of Dragon Ball Super's own, David, is it Fashbinder, right? David Fashbinder?
Oh, so
Binder?
close. So
Binder?
close. Binder. There you go, man. Everybody always tries to fancy it up, but you're good.
Yes, David Fashbinder. Yes, sir. Welcome, man. How are you tonight, man?
Thank you. I'm doing good. You know, I'm looking very scraggly over here, but I just got, I got fresh showered. I'm good. I'm dealing with that Florida heat.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm feeling good right now. I'm happy after a long day to just chat and talk some Dragon Ball. So, dude, I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely. And post GenCon, I mean, like you said it in our DMs, we were talking about it, is that post GenCon flu, you kind of get tackled by drainage of just so much walking, so much talking, so much of just pouring out of yourself.
The walking, the talking, you know, not to mention working all day the last 2 days. So you go right from, you know, those marathon work days to being done, to travel, all those people. I mean, 80,000 people at Gen Con this year is a lot, man.
Wait, did you say 80, not 8?
Yeah, 80,000 people at Gen Con this year.
80,000.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was legit. Like, was this your first time at Gen Con?
This was my first Gen Con I've ever been to. Yes.
So I'm an old fart, but I've also been going since I was real young. And so I've been going to Gen Con since 2001, before it was even in Indianapolis.
Wow.
And this was the first year since the year before COVID that I felt like, man, all right, it's back. Like, where, you know, this is, people came out this year. You know, you had companies like Bandai and Wizards of the Coast, like, that really have never had a presence, as long as I can remember, like, there. And they showed up.
They did.
And,
they did.
You know, and then you had all the Lorcana craziness and everything going on.
That was a whole nother level, man. I had a friend of mine he's deep into the Lorcana scene, and he was very, very busy. It seemed like he's been very much attached to things the moment that they announced it. He's been on it, and so he's a part of some pretty big groups in there. And so it's been.
I got a couple of friends that were working for Ravensburger. One of them was working at the con, and she was just like, I didn't have a second to breathe. Like, from the moment they opened up that dealer hall to the moment they should close every day.
There was people camping out, like, from like early the first morning, and then camped out after they made it through the line of will call, sat and camped again, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Yeah, man, it was nuts. Like, don't get me wrong, I had fun clowning on the DBS community members that were on the line every time I saw them, just giving them, you know, giving them shit for being on there. But you know, hey, look, the game looks fun.
It does.
You know, we'll see if it's got legs.
We'll see. We will see. Well, man, I want to open this up more so maybe for myself than maybe some other people, but there's probably a lot of people thinking the same thing I'm thinking. It's just like, hey, like, who is David Fashbinder? Like, who is he? Like, talk to us about just who you are, man. Give us some more of your story. Maybe like any just little bits of personal things about who you are, where you're from, those types of things. Give us a little bit about you, man.
Sure, man. You know, thanks. Well, let's see a little bit about me. I am from New York, born and raised, lived there until 4 years ago.
Wow.
Then moved with my family down to Florida. So my wife, my daughter was like not even 1 at the time, and moved down here, and then had my son a couple of years ago, COVID baby. And then you know, just been doing my thing. I've been involved with like Dragon Ball games though for a minute. I remember when the Score game came out.
Yeah, OG.
Yeah, OG.
That is an OG.
And you know, I didn't even know this game was a thing. And then like a family member brought one of the toys from Burger King that had the card with it.
Wow, that's
And I was like,
crazy.
what's up with this? And then I did a little digging. I don't even remember how I did digging because it's not like I had the internet or nothing
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Or maybe I just had got it in my room or whatever. And I found out this game was coming, everything like that. And I remember walking from my house to like Target after the game dropped to buy starter
Yeah,
decks.
the Vegeta
You
and Goku
know,
one.
that's right. And I remember like getting cards here, getting cards there. Like, oh, on vacation I saw one with my family. Oh, can I get this, get that? Slowly building it up. And then I just got into it, man, like to the point where I was like emailing Score to like get them to bring regionals to my town and
Wow,
stuff.
wow.
And got the Hummer tour to come to my LGS back in the day when they were doing that. And then, it kind of culminated with some, high finishes in the events and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To like being on the playtesting team at the end of the game and then
Wow.
helping them develop with like Dragon Ball GT.
You were a part of all that?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome, man. That's
And
incredible.
I was young still at the time. I actually
Yeah.
thought I was going to go work for them, but they pulled the plug because the games division wasn't doing so hot. They pulled the plug on the job that I was going for. So like it turned out to be a blessing, right? Because I would have hated to like got the
Yeah.
job, moved there, giving up on college, and then like
Sheesh.
boom, later. Um,
Yeah, that would have been a big hit. Wow.
yep. And then things just went cold for a minute. I dabbled in some other games, like I
Did you
did Yu
play
Yu
did you
Hakusho.
did, did you play Panini Z?
Sure did.
Okay.
So did Yu Yu Hakusho, did Versus System, and then kind of just went cold. And then in 2012, a couple of buddies of mine were doing the retro DBZ circuit. They had done a tournament at GenCon the year before. I was like, you know what? It'd be fun to go back to GenCon, see everybody. I haven't been in a minute. I'm like a grown up now. I got a job. I can get a nice hotel. Don't have to slum it anymore. Went back, had a blast, took down the whole retro tournament, got some good prizes, and just like it invigorated my love of the game again, right? And
Yeah.
started developing cards for the retro game with these guys and planning tournaments. And then Gen Con the next year, I got sat down with one of the old Score, actually the first world champion of Score, Ake, who was working for Panini after being a holdover from working for Score. And he said that, hey, we're gonna reboot the game into,
And you
we're
were
gonna
like,
bring back
what
the
was your
game.
thought on that? You're probably like, what?
I was like, fuck yeah, like let's go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
actually my first thought was because at the time, like to me, like pack busting was dead, right? No one was rolling into a store buying like a $4 pack. Like they were either like, I'll buy the box, I'll buy the case. Like no one was like chasing cards at the time. Yeah, there was Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh,
Sure,
but
sure.
like for anything else, like no one was chasing stuff. So I said, let's make it like a living card game instead. And then they said no, they want to do because Panini with the sports cards and everything,
Sure, sure.
they have that model. So like, no, we want to do a regular old TCG. So I said, all right, let's do it. And we got into it. So I was part of the development team for that game
Wow.
from sets one through 5 for that game. And I chose to leave prior to set 6 development. One, I just wasn't having much fun developing it anymore.
Yeah.
The process had changed, so I had less creative input.
Got you.
And then I wanted to play, to be
Yeah,
honest with
yeah.
you. So I was like, I had to play and wait for like the first product that I didn't work on had to come out, and then I could play like in tournaments again.
Yeah.
I had been doing locals the whole time, and all that, but so I did that, and then later that year the game died. And I'm like, these Bandai, who do they think they are? Coming in, taking the
Yeah.
license, killing my game. I was against it. I was like, no way, never doing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a couple of my buddies from Panini were like, come on, man, just try it out. It's really fun. Like we got the demo decks, and then before I know it, I was driving into New York City to go to the pre-release of the first set. Pulled a couple of SPRs. I'm like, man, these cards are
It's sick.
awesome
Yeah.
looking. Played the game. I had I was used to like a mana-based game. Like I dabbled in Final Fantasy, and then I did Versus System competitively back in the day.
Yep.
Um, and then one of my buddies, Aaron Anthony Abraham, from the community group, the founder of the community group,
Yeah.
he introduced me to Bandai at GenCon. I want to say the year that like Storm was out,
Okay.
you know, like Colossal Warfare,
Yep.
like that time Tournament of Power had just dropped.
Huge sets.
Huge sets. And you know, and then I got to know them a little bit. They asked to help out with, you know, proofing some set 5 stuff. I got to check that out. We just talked about the game, you know, help them understand the American market, the American TCG player a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah.
It's amazing how like far apart we were with like their understanding
Sure.
of it.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of people are like, what do you mean? They have the Naruto game and everything like that, the old Dragon Ball game, but that was Bandai USA. A lot of people don't realize that's a
It's
different
2 different ones.
different organization.
Yeah.
So like these guys producing a game primarily for Western audiences from Japan, it was a challenge for them.
Oh, I'm sure.
Like I remember it blew their mind when I told them that like people love like cards that support old archetypes.
Yeah.
And that's when they came out with the first reboot leaders in set 9. And that was like a foreign concept to them. They're like, what? But that's old. No one wants to play with the old stuff. They want new. And I'm like, no, man, trust me. People love this crap.
Yeah.
You know, and then some of those leaders were hype, and they've continued, right? Some of the most popular products have been stuff that boosts up the old stuff.
Wow. That's incredible, man. That's really cool. I love that. And that was actually one of my next questions, was going to ask you, like, how long have you been a Dragon Ball fan in general? Was it the card game that got you into the IP, or was it the IP that got you into the card game?
It was that anime that got me into it.
Okay.
I have a one memory, like the first time at least I remember seeing it. I was in the first house I grew up in, and like came home from school or like summer camp or something.
Yeah.
And like turned on my little broke ass TV I had in my room, and like caught the tail end of the episode from Saiyan Saga when like Chaozu like blew himself up.
Yeah.
And Tien died. I'm like,
what is this?
I'm a kid. I'm like, yo, this goes hard. Like, what is this?
Little
like,
clown
let's go.
guy just killed himself. What's
you know, and this one guy like just died. Like, and I wasn't into like any anime or anything like that. Like the most, you know, don't get me wrong, I was a straight up nerd, but like I was like Star Wars or like, you know, stuff like that.
Yep.
Like X-Men, you know,
X-Men.
that stuff, you know, for sure.
Saturday morning cartoons were still the
hell yeah.
Yep.
So like that kind of started the, you know, the love affair with Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
I got my whole room right now. You know, you can't really see it behind me. I got my Full Metal Alchemist print there.
Nice.
But I got right here on the wall above me, I got this huge Dragon Ball print that I actually bought at GenCon last year, and I got framed. Wow. I got all the Japanese original run toys still in box over here. I got manga from Korea for Dragon Ball, like the whole print run.
Dang.
And then of course all my cards. I've still got a full set of Score.
Wow.
All the Panini products sealed, plus a master set of the game, and then of course just mountains of Bandai stuff. So,
Sheesh, that's incredible, man. I love that. That's inspiring, man. I think there's a lot of people who probably like did not know. I didn't know all that about your story, and I think that's awesome. So you moved from New York, uprooted your family a couple years ago. Now you're in Florida. What was that transition like? I mean, going from New York, I don't know what part, but either way, up north, coming down south, that's a big. It's a big.
Yeah, you know, not really. No. Like people always think that, like, and of course it can be, right?
But there's plenty of like, it can be.
There's like backwoods New York and there's backwoods Florida, and you know, I wasn't in backwoods New York, and I'm not in backwoods Florida now. You know, I'm in Tampa.
Oh,
you know,
okay.
It's a pretty diverse area. Yeah, it's a diverse area down here. It's young. Like we moved to an area with a lot of other young families, like so that my you know, we moved like next door to my sister-in-law lives next door.
Okay.
Like we got to build our house, which was cool. It's the first house we've ever owned.
Nice.
You know,
that's
and
awesome.
Like, yeah, transition was rough with like the timing with like finding a job in COVID and stuff like that, that was rough, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it was definitely cool. And honestly, one of the best things about it was finding the Dragon Ball scene when I moved down here. Central Florida's got it's obviously smaller now, but go back 4 years ago, we had a pop and Dragon Ball scene.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And
is PPG around? Where's PPG? Is PPG in that area?
PPG's in Miami.
They're in Miami.
They're down south.
Shout out PPG, man. Yep.
But we got like kitchen table games. We got cool stuff incorporated. We've got like out in Orlando, you've got like Gamers R Us and those guys over there.
Yeah. I've heard of them.
You got a lot of stores. You got a lot of like nationals winning players living in the area down here, and they were running 4 locals a week.
For Dragon Ball?
Between a bunch of different stores just for Dragon Ball in my area. I wasn't working when we first moved. I was taking my time getting settled, and so I hit them all up, and I built up a crew of friends, and we got to got the group chat going, and still go to locals and stuff like that now, and a couple of locals are starting to pop up again as the game is surging in popularity a little bit, especially as like Digimon's kind of like on the decline a little, and so like Dragon Ball's picking up. Like that was huge, like getting that community like right before COVID came and knocked everyone on their ass.
What would you so I love that you brought up the local scene, which brings me to a question I was thinking about asking later, but I might just ask it now just because I feel like the timing of it is good, because we're talking about the local scene. This has been something I feel like I've run into, and you probably see this in our community chat on Facebook and stuff like that. So like there's this roar of people that it seems like it comes in waves every year. And it's this, locals is dead. Locals is dying. I have my thoughts and theories on some things, but I would love to get your take as somebody who's been in this industry for such a long time. Store owners and people like on another level than what I do. So I would love to hear your input on when you hear community people, what would you say to a group of people who are like, man, our local scene is just dead now. We don't have Dragon Ball anymore. Like we don't even meet, like blah, blah, blah. What do you say to those? If you could speak to those people, what would you say?
Well, one, that's rough. Like sometimes it just happens, right? Local scenes fall apart. Any number of reasons. People move away. Stores shut down. Like we had COVID, shut down tournaments that stopped. We just started a locals like last month. That have been shut down since COVID. But it's the players. Like even one of our biggest stores in the area, I don't think any of the locals that play there buy from there, because they're a little on the expensive side.
Sure.
But like we still show up, they still host the tournaments because they still carry other Bandai games. They carry the product for Dragon Ball. But it's just a dedicated group of guys that want to jam games, and that's the key. Finding the people first, right?
Yep.
You could have locals in the back of a restaurant if you need to. And if like the issue is that your store doesn't want to get kits, one, if they support other Bandai games, they can get kits, even if they're not buying Dragon Ball. Two, talk to the store owner, like see what the holdup is. A lot of times, I don't want to support this game because they don't want to risk laying out money.
Sure.
It could be a smaller store where they don't have a lot of credit with the distributor, and they got to maybe pay up front or pay within like 2 weeks of getting the stuff.
Sure.
And one, if you still want to buy product, I guarantee you, if you go to your store owner, they'll just buy it a la carte at a discount for you.
Sure.
Hey man, I want to get 2 cases of the new Dragon Ball when it comes out. All right, cool. I'll go get 2 cases for you. Prepay me.
Right.
Do that, see what the holdup is. A lot of times it's just, they don't want to overcommit or overinvest, and I get that. But if they know that there's people in their area that want to buy the product, and they could sell it to you at a 20% above what they pay, why wouldn't they take that business every time?
Right.
Not to mention, the way Bandai works with the distributors is you want to be a gold store, so you can get those fire one piece events, you want to get those fire, Fusion World events, the next big
Right.
project, then they're gonna want to see any support for Bandai. That's how they track it. They don't care if you're just buying one piece. They want to see like, oh, are they buying all the games?
Yeah.
Are they a big
And
store for
the
it?
gold and all that different stuff, does that goes off of attendance, or is that more just a support from the store?
It's the
Like,
store. It's what they buy, and
okay.
then the distributor updates it.
Okay.
Based on it.
So it's
Yep,
not based on like player attendance to get that ranking as much as it
correct.
is the
Same
store
amount.
being a
Yep.
supportive. Got it. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Cause that was a part that I heard and knew somewhat about, but I didn't know the full length of what that looked like. So glad I got some clarity on that. So for those of y'all who are watching this and you are trying to get your locals up and you're trying to get them to get product in, because I know our store locally out here in Raleigh, North Carolina, right? Like we have it was dead here after COVID. Like going into COVID, it was a little rocky, and then uh COVID hit, and then Digimon was like already starting to peak um, and coming into existence, and that kind of took from Dragon Ball, and then a lot of COVID, and that kind of really killed our local scene. And I think that probably did that for a lot of people. But I think one thing for me, I'll say this is that, and when I've had discussions of people saying or seeing other people say that their local scene is dead or it's dying, and my response, and you can tell me if I'm tripping or if I'm like on something onto something good, or if this is like, nah, I don't think it's that. That's cool. But for me, I was like, man, like, how can I? Because when I started back in October of last year is whenever I was like, hey, I'm gonna try and get our local scene back up and running because we have nobody. But I love Dragon Ball. I want to keep playing this stinking game, but I don't want to drive. The nearest place I could go to for a tournament was like an hour and a half away, and I didn't feel like doing it anymore. And I was like, we have a giant store who has plenty of product, plenty of playroom space, all of that. Like, there's no rhyme or reason why we can't get this thing jumping again. Um, so I was like, I'm just gonna run in and start talking to some management, talk to some people, have some conversations. Started doing that, and they were like, hey, like we don't have a lot of product right now, but if you can get a few people to start showing up, then we'll maybe see what we can do. So I went, hit up a few other guys, and it was like me and like one or two other people for like a couple months. And it got to a point where I said, like, and this is just the marketing person in me and like stuff like this too, is like, because I've come from a long stream of like social media marketing, branding, and all this different stuff. And like one of the things that I know was going into my situation locally was I have to do something different because the stores and the shops are focused on their big three. They're focused on Magic, they're focused on Pokemon, they're focused on Yu-Gi-Oh! Because those are the ones that are just going to continue to bring them money, and that's what's going to, which I don't blame them. It's a business move. However, it sucks because I think a lot of players feel like they're not getting the attention for the game that they like, which is Dragon Ball, right? Like me, I don't play any other game. I just play Dragon Ball. That's it. And so it's like, man, I wish the store knew how to promote well and market well because they really don't. A lot of shops don't know how to do that well. Like they slap something on a window and that's their marketing. Or they make a Facebook event page, that's their marketing. And it's like, it doesn't really go further than that. And so I said, hey, why don't I, as PowerUp brand, why don't I, and community, online community, why don't we host, I'm going to host a pizza party. And I'm going to buy 6 boxes of pizza. And I'm going to tell everybody who comes to play Dragon Ball, everybody gets some free pizza. And I'm buying out the drinks at the cash register for every single person who shows up
There you go.
to play Dragon Ball. I'm getting you drinks. And literally that time we did that, I was giving away play mats that we made up and all this different stuff, a hat, whatever else. And I was like, all of that stuff I was doing just out of what I wanted to do to help do something for this community and the game I love, right? And so I did that, and 16 to 17 people showed up. And so I say all that to not brag on me, but I'm saying whenever I hear players, I'm like, guys, we got to be more creative and stop waiting for the stuff to come to us and start coming together and making things happen locally if we want the game to live and continue to breathe. The shops aren't going to do everything for us. And most of them, to be honest, don't know how to do it, I don't think. And so, and there are probably a lot of players, maybe this is like, you're not that creative. You don't have these things coming through your head. Like maybe I did, but there are other people, if you come together, I feel like we could figure some of this stuff out. And so steal my idea. I don't know, but like, I'm just like, well, how does that land on you?
Well,
Do you think that has some merit to it?
just speaks, yeah, 100%. Like it's that grassroots thing, right? Like one of our these two guys in the Tampa area, and they were determined to start up a local scene again on this side of the bay, because all the other locals that had still been firing were on the other side. So they're like, no, that's too far. We can't make the trip all the time. You know, I'm crazy. But I also look at it as like my hobby night every week. So I make the trip.
Sure.
You know, but these guys are like, no, we don't want something local. Cool. And they tried, man. They found a store that was willing to do it. They pushed it in all like the local Facebook chats, the Facebook groups, all that sort of stuff. And you know what? We tried it a few times at that first store, but then the store started to flake on us. They couldn't stay open. They couldn't do this, that, the other thing. So these guys, they went out and found another store that would do it. And that store was like, yeah, we got the space to play. We got this one night a week that we can accommodate you. You know, as long as the guys show up, we'll fire a tournament. And they push it every week, and they got there, and they keep trying to grow their circle of friends. They build decks. They bring people in, and we have fun with it. And, you know, now we're only a month in, and we got a good like 10 to 12 people showing up for locals every time. You know, and I feel like, and this is the kind of store that I think is going to pop when Fusion World drops.
Yeah.
Because, you know, how big the game was in the area before COVID, before the game got complicated, you know, whatever you want to say the reason it fell off is, you know, and look, I also get it. For some people, it's not an option, right? Maybe they don't got an LGS. Maybe they don't have, maybe they never had a community. It's not like they're trying to get the guys to come back in, you know, that maybe that it wasn't there. You still have options. You know, you got online regionals playing on Untap. You're going to have the digital client for Fusion World when that drops. You can find on webcam locals that stores will run, so that you can join in from anywhere. Trust me, your money's good with them. They don't care where you're at. You know, you'll find lots of people willing to play in jam games because it's just fun. You know, it's a fun game. The people that play the game love the game. They're very passionate about it. You could see that from, you know, all the outcry over the Fusion World stuff. You could see that from the people that are following the reveals and getting all hyped for stuff and things like that. And you can see the people that get like tight when there's not events posted or there's erratas on cards or stuff like that. It's all coming from a place of passion, right?
Sure.
So like, you know, you just got to persevere. And then sometimes, you know, it sucks and maybe you just can't find that scene. You can't make the online stuff work. You know, you can collect the cards, you can follow the game, and you can buy a ticket and come to GenCon once a year. You can come to Nats and try to LCQ your way in. You know, even if it can't be this hobby that is a weekly thing, you know, or a daily thing for you, if you're that lucky, like you could still follow the game and still, you know, enjoy it.
I agree. And I'll give this sidebar to people who are just hearing what I gave is my story of helping to grow our scene is and I've done this a couple times, the pizza thing. That's been my little niche thing that I've been doing. I will give this free tidbit of information to if anybody's listening to this, and because in my head I'm like, there's probably somebody who's gonna watch this and be like, dude, let's do that. We should do the same thing. Do it, but also make sure when you do it, make sure you do this. Because I did this every time, and it was a super benefit. It's a big plus with the LGS, your local game store, right? Make sure you have enough pizza to feed staff.
Yeah.
I did that every time. Was like, I like the whole like. There's people working. I'm like, you want a slice? Come get one. And they're all like, really? I was like, yeah. Boom, boom, and they were just like thrilled that.
And not for nothing. Another pro tip: like if you've got a decent collection, and a lot of extras because you bought product or you play in tournaments, you got promos. Starting up a new scene.
Free cards.
Free cards, but even not free cards. Like, I've made a lot of money from helping out and attending these new locals because players need cards. And they need cards that I haven't sold in a long time. they need extras that I didn't think they would want. I did say, hey man, you buy anything in my, because I bring my extra binders. I say, you buy anything in the binder, and I always give good prices from my locals.
Sure.
And you can take anything you want that's under $1. You just take it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to charge you for it. And there's a lot of Dragon Ball random ass promos. We have almost 600 promos in this game.
Yeah.
SRs from random sets
Facts.
they're not worth anything, right? But if it'll make these guys happy and it'll make room in my binder for better stuff, hey man, have at it.
Bro, that is a pro tip. That's so good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you this question here, getting into Fusion World.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna try to wrap this up in like 20 minutes or so. I'm trying to wrap it up, not make it too long for you. But I do want to I don't want it to be over. I didn't want it to go over an hour, so we're trying to stay under that. That's my goal. Is like
fair. That's fair.
Kind of podcast style. That's what we're doing. First question is, do me a favor right now. Just close your eyes and think of yourself being at GenCon before GenCon even opens, and you knew the announcement is coming. What were your initial thoughts about the community's response? Put yourself back in that moment when the community response was happening from the rollout the day of GenCon before the doors open about Fusion World and the OG game becoming Masters. In that moment, what was Dave thinking?
Hold on to your butts. That's why I jumped on and I said, and I pinged my Bandai contact.
Yeah.
And luckily most of them were stateside because they sent 19 people to GenCon.
Yeah.
I said, are you guys good if I do a live Q&A to answer questions from Panicky?
Which was super dope, by the way. I'm so glad you did that.
Yep. Me too, because I think that, one, it was painless for me. That stuff doesn't stress me out.
Sure.
Two, I think it made the rest of the weekend a lot easier. I think the reaction was what I expected. I didn't, I thought that, there were so many ways they could have gotten this wrong, the messaging. And as someone who has played games that were unceremoniously killed off,
shout out to Panini.
Yep, yeah. Pour one out for Panini. But just the fact that they're even willing to keep Masters around. I felt like the noise of the machine, the noise of everything from the weekend drowned that out a little bit. Because if they wanted to kill Masters, they would have just
could have done
Masters. But I do really sympathize about the disappointment with the online client. Like I said, all screaming and fanboying and freakouts aside, that's a legit gripe, and I told them that.
Sure.
Because they got to beta test it with Masters engine, albeit a reduced Masters engine, but still Masters. They were told it's digital version of the game, everything like that, and then it's going to be for Fusion World only. So I think that it was kind of like a 1-2 punch.
Sure.
Where it added a little bit more flame to the fire. But then that night when I started the Fusion World community group and I've only made one post. That's it for the Fusion World community group. I set it up. I set up the admin crew. Just took the admin crew from the community group now and added it there. It's still a private group, so you got to get approved to join.
Sure.
But I don't have post approval on yet because I just want to let people have their fun and get in there and do their thing. I mean, off of one post pushing the group, we got almost 1,000 members already. Sheesh. And we had over 600 within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that's huge.
And it's still growing, and we haven't really had any news yet.
No.
Or nothing. And so that was my first reaction, and I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to go down to the stadium, see everyone who was down there for One Piece, everyone who was hanging out, see what everyone's first reactions were. And most people, either they got it, they're like, yeah, man, we want, we're not stupid. We know the game hasn't been growing. We know that it's been hard to attract people to events. We know that the TOs aren't feeling it. To people who are really upset But then like after talking for like 10 seconds, they were like, yeah, all right. You know, I could see that.
What do you
and
feel
then,
like? What do you feel like was for that person, the people you met that were on like jumping over the cliff angry? Like they're like, I'm out. I'm ticked off. I don't even know why I'm at GenCon. Kind of vibes. What were kind of what was the chatter like from that angle? But also like, what was your response in 10 seconds? What were you giving them to help them kind of pad that? You know what I'm saying?
just reiterating that the game's not going away, that if they wanted to kill it, they could have killed it, that there's no plans to stop making sets. And think about it, now you're going to be able to go back out and find all those people that left the game or have passed up the game because it was too complicated or too intimidating, and get them in for Fusion World and get them into the Dragon Ball Super card game universe and build on that. And a couple of these people, you know, they're content creators or aspiring content creators. I'm like, you got a whole new audience now. You got a whole new set, you know, bunch of topics to discuss. Think about bringing back the potential for like celebration style events.
Oh yeah,
where you can have like a whole weekend of Dragon Ball, multiple events. You know, you can't combine Dragon Ball and One Piece because the licensors won't allow it right now. So you know, now the possibilities are like huge.
Yeah.
You know, for the game, and you know, and then of course, once they got to go try it, you know, at the demo hall, you know, we fired. It was literally like deja vu with One Piece last year. Like that was the amount of hype around people coming through to demo the game, and not just people that were there for Dragon Ball. Because think about it, we had what 212 was the highest turnout we had for a Dragon Ball event this week, and we did a hell of a lot more than 212 demos.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to the staff that ran those demos all weekend. They crushed it, man.
That's awesome.
And you know, we had advertisements all over the convention center. People were coming through to do it. We were selling out at every demo session, you know, for people to try it out because people liked it. And the same thing, and you've seen some posts online about it, like the same threads. It was, hey, I could never get my girl to play. I can, you know, or my buddy who used to play and got out in his bag, or I never even bothered to try to teach this to my kid or my nephew, but now, you know, the Fusion World, he was able to pick up like that. I had one of the OG score players who was like a designer on that game and like, you know, on Panini and all that. And he messaged me out of the blue. And I don't even think he's in the community group. Like, hey, I heard about this reboot. What's going on? Like, am I going to be able to jump back in now? And like seeing all the people, I had way more people messaging me about being excited to come back or try it out than I did people like freaking out about and wanting to quit and sell off their collection.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah. And then I think that a lot of the, you know, everyone always loves to like read into stuff.
Sure.
So like a lot of the complaints about like the amount of erratas that have been happening with the new cards and like the bad proofreading and like, you know, art not as good, which, you know, that's whack because the art on this set is fire. I know like the Janembas look a little funny, but that's more that art style that they've been using. If you look at all the Z extra cards, they use like that more like cartoony art style. Like you saw the Janemba cards today, they look legit.
I love it. I'm here for it.
Yep. And like, you know, we're gonna be doing another couple months. We'll be doing previews for Zenkai Set 6, and like they're putting their effort in, like going out getting new art orders. They got other people doing like text review now for the English translation, which they dropped the ball on.
This is Masters, right?
All Masters. Yeah. All Masters.
Okay.
So like, you know, upcoming God Rares in every set, like they're you know, going after the popular arcs, the popular characters, doing everything they can to push this game. And I heard it directly from the head of sales' mouth, you know, because I straight up asked him, you know, about the plans for the future and everything. And he said, look, we have no decisions made one way or the other. Like, if Masters continues to sell well or the sales go up, like, we will do it. We will keep doing it. They want to make money, man. And they already have the license. They already paid Toei for licensing and all that.
That's what I was telling people at GenCon. I was like, there was a point where I was at the demo seat and I was playing with one of my buddies on our PowerUp team and stuff, and I'm sitting here doing this stuff, and I look over and or I hear over and I look over, and there's a group of guys, and one guy is just like, man, I don't even know why we came to GenCon, man. This Master's gonna be dead in like 4 months after release or whatever, da 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 da. And I just listened to him, and then I was like, no, it's not, bro. Masters is not going anywhere. And then he's like, bro, it is. I was like, no. I was like, it won't. I was like, here's the deal. I was like, Masters will die if you let it die. If we, the players, stop putting our money into the game, then Bandai will pull the plug. If we sit back and say, oh no, there's a new some odd format or a different different version of the game we play now that is out, doom and gloom it, and we just say F Bandai, right? Then what Bandai is going to end up doing is being like, well, we don't want to quit, but if you guys want to quit, then bump y'all too. Like,
it's just business, man.
That's exactly. I was like, it's business. So if we don't put the money into it, so thank you for saying that. It's exactly how I felt.
And it's 100% the case. And one of the biggest Bandai myths out there, and I've dispelled this 100 times on the forums, but I'll say it again now because I feel like I'm never going to have to stop saying it. There isn't like One Piece taking away from Dragon Ball, taking away from Digimon, taking away from Fusion World, taking away from Masters. That's not a thing. Every game is developed by a different crew. Every game has a different producer. Every game, it rolls up ultimately to the same games department. And even on the sales and marketing side, like there's an account manager for each game. So like when Fusion World became a thing, they added staff. It's not, the same, bunch of guys now having to develop 2 games with the same manpower.
Right.
It's, there's, that's not a thing that happens. So like, just because One Piece is popping off doesn't mean that they're taking resources away from Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Or just because Fusion World might be really popular out the gate doesn't mean they're like, all right, cut all the time you're spending on Masters and focus on Fusion World. Yeah.
Yeah, that's super good to address, man, because there's a lot of people who do get that misconstrued and think that there's just one blob of Dragon Ball people and they're split now between 2 games and all that kind of stuff, and it doesn't work like that. So, and I business wise, I knew Bandai's got so much money. There's no rhyme or reason why they would have
the card department in Bandai makes up, I want to say it might have even been less than, it was at most 5% of their entire revenue as a company.
Yeah.
They got the toys, they got the video games, they got the model kits, they got premium Bandai, they got a whole candy division out there in Japan, man.
Crazy.
Like, they are on it. They make so much money.
They clearly are doing this game for us, the fans, and the people who enjoy the game more than they are to like probably benefit themselves. I feel like they're making money, but I don't think they're, like you said, they're not making, the vast majority of their money is not live from the card game.
Well, like Bandai in general, no. I mean, but they want to be in the card space, right? And like the licensors come to them and say, hey, we want a card product for, this property.
So would you say that 100% they're trying to compete with the Pokemons, the likes of Pokemon and all that? You know what I mean?
I think that's always the goal, right? Like who wants to go to their boss and be like, no, I'm good with being 4th place.
Right.
Let's do that. Yeah. I think that they recognize that like One Piece is probably their best shot of going after that same demographic. As Pokemon, where it's like an anime that's like actively the story's still being told and like it's out and like it's got new content coming. Like Dragon Ball comes and goes, right? When they decide to do the anime and not do the anime. And Dragon Ball they know is geared towards an older audience. Just because of the nostalgia factor and like how long it's been a thing. So, I think that, obviously their goal would be to break into the top 3, but their goal is to make a profit. Their goal is to have a profitable business, profitable product, make their licensors happy, make the licensors continue to want to work with them. Like, that's ultimately what.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think they want to make money, but I'm not saying. I guess what I'm saying is like from the overall branding perspective of Bandai, it's like they know they're not making the biggest. They're not. This is not their surplus. This is their.
Right.
This is a part where they're like, hey, we're gonna make a little bit of money off this, sure, but this is not the bread-winning thing, end-all, be-all for their market. Like,
Yeah, I mean, look, business school, old
yeah,
school, mentality. You get your like SWOT analysis, right, or your product life cycle. That's probably a better, better term to talk about. And you've got, mature product, which is Masters for sure now.
sure,
I mean, especially in the card game world, going on 7 years, that's ancient. For a product with an eternal format and no rotation, like, whoa, like that's not a thing that happens.
no,
And it's still making money. Dragon Ball, compared to all their other games, has been the most steady. It doesn't mean it's been the most,
but it's
it's
been
been the most
consistent.
steady. Yep. Digimon looks like a roller coaster on that graph. And then One Piece obviously is shooting for the moon right now. We'll see how high is high with them. But look, it's all a rising tide lifts all boats.
Yeah,
Bandai card games becoming popular means more likely to get, crazy support and more. Because remember, tournaments, prizing, regionals, that's a marketing expense for these guys.
Yeah.
So, they don't put on a regional expecting to turn a profit from a regional. A TO needs to turn a profit
right.
to run their business. But Bandai's like, nah, man, here, take the money.
Yeah.
Just put on a good event, represent our product well, sell your tickets,
I mean, it's good marketing. It's marketing. You know what I'm saying?
It's all marketing,
100%.
Even though they're obviously never going to drive the secondary market and they don't want to play that game, they recognize the importance of it.
Yeah.
They'd be stupid not to. And they know that competition and making exciting prizes and being able to say they had 1,000 people in an event like they've been able to do for One Piece and a couple of Digimon events when it was at its peak, they want to be able to get those kind of numbers.
Yeah.
But we got to recognize that there's a barrier to entry of Masters, right? No one who picked up at the game like last week is going to feel confident rolling into a regional.
Nah.
Much less a nationals. Trust me, the amount of people, and I know it's a vocal minority, but most people who go to play an event don't think they're going to win, and they don't think that they have to plus. Because again, old farts like me, there was no participation pricing.
That's fair.
The only event that Score gave participation pricing for was Worlds. That was it. Like at regionals and stuff like that, your participation was getting to play in an event where you could win prizes. And
we've come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, the market's changed, right? But if you got 10 people, 100 people in a room that weren't like pro players, I guarantee you their number one reason for not attending is because they don't think they'd have fun getting blown out all the time.
Yeah.
That's why like the scene is very different. Like if you have an 8-man locals, you only need 100 of those to have by far the biggest event we've ever had in the history of the game.
Sure.
Right? And if you had 800 people show up. But no one's going to want to make the trip. No one's going to want to invest the money. No one's going to want to have that experience and have it be a sour experience and feel like they're intimidated, feel like they're getting, blown out. I mean, it was just awesome to be able to like say that I used to go compete at nationals, compete at worlds. That was fun. Like the war stories I tell about tournaments where I didn't win any prizes are still some of the best ones I got.
That's awesome.
And the experiences and everything like that. And going to like OG GenCon in Milwaukee when I had no money. And like literally riding in a van all the way there from Long Island with a buddy and his dad. And like the only thing I was able to do was play in the tournament, and I still had so much fun. Back in the day, man. And I bubbled out 17th. I didn't make top cut that year in 2001. I was 16, but I had a blast. Like, why wouldn't someone want to have that same experience with Masters or with Fusion World?
Yeah.
But with Masters, it's not likely that they're going to have that experience.
Sure.
They're going to roll up. They're going to get blown out by whatever tier 0 nonsense is going on. Or they're going to get burnt out from complicated matches or not knowing what the whole card pool does. And they're not going to feel it was worth it.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Well, I want to ask you two more questions, man, and then I want to try to wrap it up. But what excites you personally? If you could, like, in a couple sentences, man, what excites you about the future of Fusion World? Like, with what you know, what excites you, and is there anything that you can tell us that's maybe like you know it's on edge of like what you can tell us about? I think what people really, from my local scene and even conversations I had yesterday, was like, we know that there's placeholders in the card art, right? We know that. Have you seen any of the art that they're going with, maybe? And if you have, can you say like what you have seen is like, yo, is it different in its own right to be dope? Like, because we were talking about that earlier. Some people were like, you can't give Fusion World, some people were like, you can't give Fusion World better looking stuff than what we already have. And I'm cut from the idea of, I think they both equally need to be uniquely dope in their own right, because if somebody who's brand new to Fusion World just feels like, I don't want to play that one, I want to play this one, you got to give them the like $4 out of a pack. Or if I go buy a box, it's the same price. I can't walk away being like, I feel duped. You know what I mean? Like, that's where my mind goes. But so speaking to like what excites you and just what do you kind of already know, maybe about the art or other little things that we haven't seen yet that, you know, that you can maybe share with us that got you excited. You know what I mean?
Sure. So what I'm excited about is the amount of growth and support we're going to see for the Dragon Ball Super card game universe, the brand.
Yes.
Overall, right?
Come on, bro. Yes.
So like, it's time for them to put their money where their mouth is. You know, what kind of fire events are we going to have? Like, they already talked about there's going to be like super pre-releases for Fusion World like we have for One Piece. Like, that's going to be nuts. I'm super excited about that. And like, look, copy One Piece, man. That worked. That's fire. Look at that pricing. Like, anybody who's saying, like, I'm not saying copy them from like a game engine, but from a sales marketing standpoint, you would be an idiot if you weren't copying that. Like,
speaking to that real quick, what are they doing different? Because I don't keep close tabs on One Piece, to be honest with you.
Got you.
So what is the difference?
A couple of things that stood out is having like more engaging tournaments that aren't just regionals. So they have like the super pre-releases. They have the Pirates Party. So, you know, pre-releases where you get a starter deck from the new game with like a exclusive alt art leader, exclusive promos that you can win, a special promo just for that event, and it's never going to be released again. You know, those kind of things to just generate hype and put some money pricing in the game.
They've already confirmed that they're doing that for Fusion World. They're going to be doing.
I believe there was an announcement that came from not me today that someone got through TCG Plus. I think the information's in there already.
Nice.
So like doing that. I can't speak to the exactness of this, but I know they've had conversations about like the pack structure being more like One Piece, where, you know, only the high rarity cards come in foil. And you know, that way you'll be able to get like tournament promos and stuff. Event packs will be more interesting and engaging. Because like, oh man, I really need that foil Senzu Bean. That's the only place you could get it, is that event pack. I gotta get it. That's gonna be a money card. You know, and then with the alt arts, so that's kind of where I was going to with that.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at One Piece cards, man, One Piece cards that aren't the alt arts kind of look like Dookie. You know, not for nothing.
Yeah.
Like when I opened up set One Piece, I was like, this ain't all that. But then in that same box, I got that alt art Zoro character card. I'm like, this slaps. You know, this is
fire.
This is great. And that was my first introduction to the IP as well. So I wasn't a One Piece fan before the game came out. And I was like, this is not impressive. This is not making me want to go
Right.
check this out until I saw the altar. And they recognized that. So I did see some. I got to see some test prints of some Fusion World. So I can't speak to the art. I don't know if the art.
It may not be final. It may not be final, but what you saw.
Right. But the templates and like what these are gonna look like were awesome. So I still like the look of the Masters cards better. You know, like you're not gonna compete with like the God Rare from this set anytime soon. Like with any of the Fusion World stuff, like the God Rare that is gonna get revealed in I think a little over a week. Looking at the date here. You know, is fire. And like the Fusion World stuff ain't gonna compete with that. But that's like a high rarity chase card, right, in Masters. Sure. And like Masters just looks awesome. And it's a Bandai product, so you know like the card stock's gonna be good, the cards are gonna look sharp. They've got to represent the brand well. Like the licensor won't allow them to make a product that looks like crap. Right. That's why the digital client took so long to come out. The first iteration didn't look so hot. So they made him go back to the drawing board and make it look good.
Are you talking about for the digital, like the animations, or you mean like?
Just that was like the feedback, right? So like the company that's developing the online client, like their first like hyper alpha version, the licensor didn't like it. They said go back to the drawing board and make it look better. You know, that's how this stuff works.
That's good.
You know, Goku's like Mickey Mouse to these guys, man. They're not gonna let him, you know, show up in a bad way.
Nah, they just need to fix him on Fortnite. But other than that,
but like, man, I'm just excited overall. You know, I had a lot of mixed emotions leading up to the announcement, and then of course after the announcement. Like it's never easy, especially when it's such a passion project. You know, it's a big part of my life, big part of my identity is being involved in all these card games. And like basically being told that like, yeah, you're getting a little old and not good. I'm gonna trade you in for the younger, hotter model. Like, you know, I was like, oh, Bandai, why are you doing me like that? But like seeing everything come to life, really made a difference. Yeah, you know, it's easy to sit there and be negative when you're just like looking at it on paper or hearing about the ideas. You know, but when you get to play it and you get to see people do it, and I'm excited to see the turnouts for these super pre-releases.
Yeah, that's gonna be sick.
You know, yeah, I'm excited, man.
Well, I'm a huge Dragon Ball nerd, man. That's like that's my only one giant fandom. I feel like I've like
so then I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
You can get one starter at your super pre-release for Fusion World. Who's it gonna be? Because you know who they are, right? Mm-hmm. It's Goku, Vegeta, Broly, and Frieza.
I mean, everybody who knows me knows exactly what I'm gonna say. So it has to be Goku. It has to be Goku.
Okay. All right.
So I'm saying Goku all day. He's my number one choice. Hate him or love him, he's what got me into anime. He's the reason I'm into Dragon Ball. Period. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I'd say Goku, bro. 1000%.
I hope they're more balanced than the One Piece ones were for the super pre-release. But like I'm hoping that I can rock Frieza because that's my guy.
Nice.
I'm always been a villain guy.
Okay.
You know, and Frieza is my favorite Dragon Ball villain for sure.
That's like me and my brother, man. My brother, I have a younger brother, and every time like we would like play characters and do like crazy stupid stuff as a kid, I was always like Goku or Green Ranger or whatever, and it was like always these like and my brother would be like the complete opposite, and be a villain, Cell, Frieza, whatever. But yeah, man, bro, thank you, man, for your time tonight. I think we're right at about an hour recording this, man. So dude, thank you so much for just joining me and having this conversation. I think this hopefully helps a lot of people get to know not just the game, but get to know you and help put more of an inflection of a voice behind your posts, and maybe just a better understanding of what we're in for going into 2024. So yeah, man, thank you for your time, man. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Anytime we'll have to have you back on here again sometime soon.
You got it.
All right, man. Appreciate it.